Look, I'm not going to sugarcoat this. The Blue Jays are heading into opening day already short-handed, and if you've been following this team closely, you know exactly how much this stings. Yimi Garcia is not going to be ready. That's the reality. And before anyone tries to spin this as some minor inconvenience, let's actually talk about what this means for a Toronto bullpen that was supposed to be one of the most dangerous in the American League this year. Garcia came out and told reporters himself he hasn't even thrown off a mound yet during spring training. Elbow surgery recovery timelines are notoriously unpredictable, and while he's talking about starting his build-up process in the coming weeks, there is no world where you rush a 35-year-old reliever coming off elbow surgery back onto a major league mound before he's truly ready. He even said it himself, "It's a long season, you have to be smart." And he's right. But that doesn't make the situation any less frustrating for a Blue Jays team that signed him specifically because they knew what he could bring to a high-leverage bullpen role. Here's the part that really gets me, though. Think about the journey this guy has been on just in the last 2 years alone. Garcia was absolutely dealing in the first half of 2024, a 2.70 ERA, 5 saves, pitching out of his mind for a Blue Jays team that unfortunately wasn't going anywhere in the standings. So they moved him at the deadline to Seattle, got back Jonathan Clays and Jacob Sharp, which honestly looked like a solid return. Garcia makes 10 appearances with the Mariners, nothing spectacular, and then what happens? He ends up right back in Toronto. 2 years, $15 million. The Blue Jays wanted him back badly enough to pay for him. And now, here we are. He gave them 22 games in 2025 before everything started falling apart. First, it was an ankle sprain that put him on the injured list in July. Normal enough guys deal with ankle sprains. But then during the rehab process, nerve issues started showing up in his elbow. And once nerve and elbow problems enter the conversation for a reliever in his mid-30s, the situation escalates quickly. It went from a soft tissue issue to surgery that wiped out the rest of his season entirely. He wasn't there for Toronto's postseason run, a run that went all the way to a Game 7 in the World Series before it ended. Imagine working your whole career, signing back with a team you clearly have love for, and then watching from the sideline as they go on the deepest October run in franchise history without you. That has to be devastating on a personal level, and I think it's worth acknowledging that before we just move on to talking about replacements. But we do have to talk about replacements, because that's the reality the Blue Jays are managing right now. Jeff Hoffman is your closer. That part isn't changing. If there's a save situation on opening day against the Athletics, Hoffman is getting the ball in the 9th. He's earned that role, and he's going to handle it. The real question is everything leading up to that 9th inning, and who fills the high-leverage setup innings that Garcia was supposed to own. Tyler Rogers is a name a lot of casual fans might be sleeping on, but they absolutely should not be. This is one of the more underrated signings of Toronto's entire offseason. 3 years, $37 million for a submariner coming off splits between San Francisco and the Mets. Now I know what you're thinking. A submarine guy, low velocity, that doesn't scream high-leverage reliever. And you're not wrong that he doesn't fit the typical profile. But look at what he's actually done. 3 consecutive seasons with an ERA of 3.04 or better. That kind of sustained performance doesn't happen by accident. Hitters simply cannot time a delivery like his, and when you combine that with elite command and the ability to generate weak contact consistently, Rogers is going to be genuinely valuable for this team in ways the box score alone won't fully capture. Then there's Louis Varland, and this is where it gets interesting. The Blue Jays acquired him from Minnesota at the trade deadline last season as part of the Twins' massive bullpen teardown, and Varland had been absolutely electric in the first half for them, a 2.02 ERA through the first half of the year, pitching out of the bullpen as a converted starter. He gives you length, he gives you swing and miss stuff, and after his strikeout rate climbed to a career-best 28.3% last season, there is legitimate reason to believe he can be a factor in high-leverage situations. His consistency after coming to Toronto was a little up and down, which makes sense. New environment, pennant race pressure, different coaching staff. But they leaned on him heavily in the postseason for a reason. The stuff is real. If he can lock in that consistency over a full year in a system that now fully fits him, Varland could genuinely emerge as one of the better setup arms in the entire American League. And I'd be doing you a disservice if I didn't mention Braydon Fisher, because this kid was one of the best stories in baseball last year, and I feel like not enough people are talking about him heading into this season. 7-0 with a strikeout rate over 30% as a rookie. Granted, he wasn't pitching in the highest leverage spots on a consistent basis, but 5 holds as a rookie who's still learning the major league game is nothing to dismiss. Fisher has the kind of raw ability that makes evaluators genuinely excited, and if the Blue Jays need to push him into a bigger role earlier than anticipated because of the Garcia situation, I think there's a real chance he rises to the occasion. The bottom line is this: the Blue Jays losing Garcia for opening day, and potentially for a significant chunk of the early season, is a real blow. Not catastrophic, but real. This was a team built with championship-level depth specifically because they knew that over 162 games things would break down, and they needed the organizational pieces to absorb those breaks without completely unraveling. The bullpen, as currently constructed, still has Hoffman closing, Rogers providing a completely different look and a track record of consistent performance, Varland with legitimate swing-and-miss upside, and Fisher as a high-ceiling young arm who already proved he belongs. Garcia said it best himself: it's a long season. And for a team that just went to a Game 7 in the World Series, that franchise-altering run has created a belief throughout that clubhouse that they can navigate anything. They've already been through the hard part mentally. They know what it takes to win in October. Now they just have to stay healthy enough to get back there, and they have to do the first part of that without one of their key pieces. Whether Garcia returns by May, June, or somewhere in between, the Blue Jays cannot afford to wait for him. They have to find answers now. Based on what we're seeing in spring training, the pieces are there. The depth is real. But make no mistake,